Hello, and welcome to Ask Bellco, the show that answers your financial questions. To have your questions answered here on the show, just send them to us on social media using the hashtag AskBellco. This month, we're joined by Alex Swanson, CFS Financial Advisor, to discuss saving for retirement. Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
CUSO Financial Services LP. So what is that, and how are they connected with Bellco? I guess what I'm asking you is, what are you doing here?
So CUSO Financial Services LP is a broker-dealer that offers investment services to Bellco members. So Bellco has contracted with the firm that I work for, and we basically just offer investment advice. So one of the things I think makes us different from other broker-dealers is that we don't really have a minimum for coming in and talking to somebody. I believe that people with any dollar amount deserve financial advice, and so we're happy to meet with somebody who has $50 a month to invest or $5 million to invest.
Well, so I don't have to have $500 million.
No, you don't have
You'll take
to.
an appointment with me. That's good, because I don't have $500 million, and I don't know very many people who do have $500 million.
I don't have any clients that have $500 million, but you know, there's always kind of.
I mean, hey, man, a person can.
It could happen
someday.
Yes.
Someday, maybe. And when I talk to a lot of my friends about money, they say things like, "Hey, man, I'm still young. Like, that's all in the future." When is a good time to start planning for retirement?
I would just throw whatever drink you have at that person and say, snap out of it. You know, there's no time like the present. So one of those super valuable things about saving for retirement consistently and saving early is that you've got all of this time to put money aside and all of this time for your money to potentially grow. So when you start early, you get to use something that's it's called compound interest, which basically means that the interest that you earn on your funds is then earning interest. So if you have that happening over a 30-year period or a 20-year period, that's super duper valuable. You have to do a lot less work if you start now than if you start tomorrow. And that's at any age. Starting now is better than starting tomorrow. But I think, you know, I have a lot of clients that tell me, oh, I regret so much not thinking about the future when I was younger and at least starting something small. So it doesn't have to be a huge commitment. It doesn't have to be, you know, your whole paycheck, but to start small and be consistent is incredibly valuable.
Now, there are a lot of different ways that people plan for their retirement and for their future that way. There are employer match, like 401ks and things like that. You know, you could bury mason jars full of cash in your backyard. What are the types of retirement savings that I should consider, maybe, or that somebody like my age should consider?
I don't recommend the mason jar method. I actually worked for a bank many years ago where somebody came in with all of this cash that they had buried in their backyard. For real. People do this. Yes.
I was making a joke.
I know,
That's
but
awesome.
They do that. And they had to send everything off to the Fed because they couldn't determine whether or not the money was real because it was so deteriorated from being underground.
Oh.
So don't do that.
Can I freeze it?
I don't know the long-term effects of freezing on cash.
Don't recommend freezing it either. Okay. No, in all seriousness though, if I was actually going to consider some retirement savings.
Sorry to go off on a tangent. It's a funny story.
Which we could go off on, you know, I mean.
So I highly encourage using a 401k if you have one available to you. Not everybody does, but if you do have an employer-sponsored plan like a 401k, that money is going to come right out of your paycheck. So when you get your paycheck every month, you're going to spend whatever comes in. And so it's really painless to not even see that happening, and it's just kind of accumulating for you.
It comes out before you receive the check.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of times on those plans, your employer will also help you out. So if you put in $1, they might put in $1. And so a lot of times there's some sort of matching incentive to participating to those plans. So I highly recommend those if you have one available. If you don't have that available to you, you're not out of options. You can set up an individual retirement account, which is a similar vehicle that you're setting up on your own. And so both of those choices, a 401k and an IRA, do have investment options inside of them that are going to fluctuate based on market performance. But you absolutely can set up an individual retirement account if you don't have an employer-sponsored one.
Now, you talked about fluctuating based on market performance, right? So a 401k is an investment, right? And like all investments, there is an element of risk. So how do I it's possible to lose money in a 401k, right? How do I prevent that from happening?
You might not want to prevent that from happening. I think
really?
Yeah, it really just depends on how comfortable you are seeing that fluctuating value and what your goals are and how long of a time horizon you have to have those funds invested. So if you're not using that money today, if you're going to spend that money in 30 years from now in retirement and you see your account balance go down, as long as you're not selling out of it at that point, as long as you're not pulling your money out of your retirement account or moving over to safe investments that aren't going to fluctuate in value, more than likely the market is going to return. It's going to come back up. So markets tend to be cyclical. As long as the economy is growing over time, we're probably going to see the market come back up. And so as long as you don't need that money today, I would encourage you just to keep it invested. You're likely to have a better return over time with a market-based investment that fluctuates in value and can lose money than you are in a fixed rate investment where you're earning, a stated interest rate that's a bit lower.
So it kind of seems like what you're saying is if you're seeing that money in your 401k go down, don't get the jitters and pull out immediately. It kind of seems like the real key is to just kind of remain calm.
Exactly, and also to not invest above what you're comfortable with. There is a moment where you're not going to be able to ignore that knee-jerk reaction, and so you certainly want to invest within your personal risk tolerance and have the ability to remain calm. So we don't want to have you to a point where we'd love to say, just remain calm, but if that's not a possibility because you're invested in something that's above what you feel comfortable with, seeing that kind of fluctuation, then you shouldn't be there. So it's a combination of what are your goals, where do you need this money to be in what amount of time, what risk tolerance do you have, what are you comfortable with seeing in fluctuation of values, and how long do you have? Is this going to be 6 months or 20 years? Because there's a lot more time that we have to ride out a bad market in 20 years than we do in 6 months. We wouldn't really recommend being in a market-based investment over a 6-month period.
Yeah. It kind of sounds to me like something that we have discussed a lot of times on this show, which is that really everybody's finances are different. And what's comfortable for you or manageable for you might not be comfortable or manageable for your neighbor or the person who sits next to you at work or whatever. And it's really about finding out what works for you personally.
Absolutely. I think that shows like this that give you a baseline of education are so fabulous, but there's an exception to every rule and every single person is different, and advice for one 30-year-old might not be the same advice that you give to another 30-year-old, even though most of the time it's going to be similar. And so I do highly encourage people who are having questions or want to be more proactive about their finances to go in and talk to somebody, because they'll be able to kind of hone in and give specialized advice as opposed to blanket advice or general guidelines that might not be as applicable.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little personal here. I feel like I'm in general pretty fortunate in that I don't have a tremendous amount of debt. But like most Americans, I have some debt, and I feel like I'm always torn between paying off the debts from the past versus investing in my retirement and my future. Where should I be on that tug of war? Like, is there a formula for that, or?
Well, I'm going to applaud you for thinking about it. So I think that that's super important, is to just say, hey, I have these two goals. How do I accomplish both of these things at the same time? And to not just ignore one in favor of doing the other. So I'm going to just pretend I don't have debt so I can save for the future, or I'm going to pay down all of my debt and I can't save for the future. You really can do both. So whatever your discretionary dollar amount is at the end of the month that you can put towards those goals, you're going to split it up in a way that makes sense for you. So again, just super personal decision.
So it doesn't have to be like 50-50 right down the middle.
No,
half of the past, half
absolutely
of the future.
not. It really depends on the types of debts that you have and the financial situation that you're in. So, for example, if you have a lot of credit card debt, that's the type of debt that you have, and you are paying a really high interest rate on it. Ooh. I know, it's the worst. Yeah. You may want to put more of that extra money that you have at the end of the month towards that debt, because you're paying a lot to have it.
Yeah, it's costing you money to keep that debt around.
Exactly. It's costing you money. It's costing you a lot of money.
Right.
Those interest rates are really high, as opposed to a mortgage, which isn't costing you very much. And, putting an extra $50 a month towards your mortgage is probably not going to get your cash flow to improve. You're probably not going to have that mortgage paid off any sooner, but putting that extra $50 towards your credit cards hopefully will get rid of that credit card debt, free up the cash flow of what was going towards that loan previously, and allow you to use it for other purposes. So it's definitely a combination of what your goals are, how much money you have left over, and what kind of debt you have. So you can certainly split that up, but I think the most important thing is that you're thinking about it, that you're not just saying, oh, I'm just gonna pay everything without a plan. Having a plan to get to a goal is helpful, and having control over when you're going to get to that goal is also.
Making a plan is important. It feels like a big puzzle with a whole bunch of pieces, and I'm really happy that you're here to help me figure out how to put it all together.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I feel like I've learned a lot today, but I think I'm probably going to forget some of this. So for me personally, and also for our viewers, if they forget some of this information and need a refresher, or if they want more information, can I come to a Bellco and talk to you or somebody like you and get that information?
CFS advisors are by appointment, but we are inside of the Bellco branches every day. So the easiest way to find us and set an appointment to make sure that you come in when we're there and available and totally dedicated to you is to go to the website, the bellco.org website, and go to personal, and then investing, and then face-to-face advice. There's a list of all of the CFS advisors on that website and the branches that they cover, so you can find the one that's most convenient for you and schedule a time to come in.
Call or go to the website and make an appointment. You heard it here, folks. Call or go to the website and make an appointment. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. I had a great time.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in this month. Next month, we will be discussing leasing versus buying a car and what makes sense for you. Don't forget to send us your questions using that hashtag AskBellco on social media, and tune in next month for your answer.